There are many breeds of vampire in the Witcher universe, some of which appear to be just mindless beasts, going around killing as many people as possible, in order to state their forever unquenched thirst for blood. However, there are some vampires that are a cut above the usual sort found in the world. These vampires are not only extremely rare, but also intelligent. They are known as higher vampires, which should not be confused with the true higher vampires, which include notable vampires like Regis and Detlef. What I mean by higher vampires is quite literally, these vampires are considered to be of a higher rating than the lesser vampires, and this is usually based on the unique features and intelligence these types of vampires possess. As I said, it's not actually technically correct to call them higher vampires, as a higher vampire is actually a race of vampire, but many experts in the Witcher universe refer to them as such on a classification basis, meaning they are more powerful, therefore higher than some other races of vampire. Lesser vampires include species such as Fledders, Echimaras, and Garcanes, and higher vampires include species such as Alps, Mulas, Catacans, Nekorats, and of course, Bruxa. And is this race of vampire the Bruxa that I'll be discussing today? Bruxa are one of the most intelligent and dangerous breed of vampire in the Witcher universe. They appear as what is described in the Witcher 2 bestiary, womanoid, and not only do they appear as a woman, but they are also said to be built on contradictions. For example, they have white pupils and a blank face, and this contrasts with their feminine silhouette. They also have elegant scarlet claws, which are either an interesting body adornment or simply razor-sharp claws stained with the blood of their prey. Like all vampires, they are also post-conjunction creatures, which means they are not originally from the world in which the Witcher games take place. They arrived in the conjunction of spheres. Bruxa are said to make their homes in dark crypts and ancient ruins, and although this is true, most simply make their homes away from populated areas, and generally their lairs are in places where they cannot be easily surprised, hence the occasional crypt or ruin. One thing to look out for when travelling in the wilds is the sounds of several different birds at once, as in some cases this may indicate that you're entering a Bruxa's territory, and this is because Bruxas are known to have very close ties with birds. In fact, in the Last Wish Witcher book, it is noted that a Bruxa known as Verena loved birds. Some, although not many, also make their homes near the dwellings of men. However, they avoid crowds and only generally emerge from their shelters at night. When emerging, they may appear similar to travelers, but what should be looked out for is their piercing voices, breathtaking speed, and as said before, their close ties to birds. One of the reasons they might decide to live near men is because, as mentioned in the Witcher 2 bestiary, Bruxas often find people to become their lovers, as then they can have a constant supply of blood without having to hunt. This can be seen to an extent with the possible Bruxa Oriana and her orphanage. It is exactly what it sounds like. This vampire opened up an orphanage for children so she could feed on them, as apparently she preferred children's blood to any other. The reason these vampires are considered to be so dangerous is because not only are they swifter and stronger than almost any human and non-human, or even a witcher, but also because they possess the ability to turn invisible. The ability to turn invisible can be found in a few different races of vampire. For example, higher vampires possess this ability, as do Echimaras and Catacans, but the reason this particular ability is considered more deadly when paired with a Bruxa is simply because of the speed at which this creature can move. Higher vampires are the pinnacle of danger when it comes to vampire, but when comparing all their lesser kin, even those considered higher, the Bruxa is, at least I would argue, second only to the higher vampire. And as I said before, this is because of the invisibility and great speeds at which they can move. This is not even the end of the Bruxa's abilities, as Bruxas can also use their incredibly sharp claws to rip their prey to pieces by attacking them from all directions. They are then able to drink their target's blood whilst their target is in a weakened state. Finally, the Bruxa is also capable of sonic attacks, which are able to stun their prey, allowing them to then use a deadly combination of their other abilities to finish off their targets. Clearly, from all these abilities, and perhaps from even encountering them yourselves, you can tell these vampires are not to be engaged by anyone. I would say even a trained professional should avoid them at all costs. In fact, they have been described as one of the Witcher Geralt's most dangerous ever opponents, and this can even be seen in the Last Wish Witcher book, when he realizes he is facing one and quite literally jumps behind a fountain to get cover, as he recognizes the danger he's in. However, if you do wish to brave them, I have a few tips that may prove useful when facing this foe. The first is, of course, to use the potion Black Blood, and this is mainly a countermeasure, as if your health does begin to get low, as said before, the Bruxa will try to drink your blood. But with Black Blood, they will get a nasty surprise. The next tip is to use Mundus Bombs, as although they can't get rid of a Bruxa's invisibility, they do lessen the effects, as you can now see their form and work out where they plan to attack you from. A healthy dose of vampire oil on your silver sword cannot hurt either, and if you don't have a silver sword, the only tips I can give is to either A, be very accurate, or B, take out a loan with the Vivaldi Bank and buy one. Signs like Igni, Quen, and especially Ard may also prove useful, as Quen will save you from at least one of their attacks, although it can be broken by their Screech attack. Igni will allow you to use fire against them, which as a vampire, Bruxas are especially weak to, and finally, Ard has a chance to knock them to the ground, allowing you to finish them off instantly, similar to a harpy. Despite being a deadly and effective killer, it was actually stated by Regis and confirmed by Geralt that if you compare a Bruxa's killings to that of a Fleda and an Ekimara, they aren't all that brutal, i.e. they don't rip them apart limb from limb. Perhaps as an intelligent creature, they work out that that really isn't all that effective when a simple stab at an artery will do. Although not shown to us in The Witcher 3, in the Witcher book The Last Wish, we are actually shown that Bruxas possess the ability to turn into what is effectively a giant bat. Another fact we are told in this book, which is actually a trait that they possess in The Witcher 3, is that due to this vampire being more unique than the lesser species, they are able to go out into sunlight, similar to the higher vampire race and the other vampires classified as higher vampires. This book also shows us the other abilities already discussed, such as the Screech attack and their incredible speed. Another ability that is not really gone into all that much is also the Bruxa's ability to evoke their target's dreams. For example, a Bruxa did this in the Last Wish book to a man-turned-beast known as Nivellen. I may discuss this story in future, but for now, that's all the key elements involving Bruxas in this story. Bruxas also seemingly possess another ability that is only shared by a few other vampires. This ability being the ability to mask their true appearance and appear human. We are of course shown this with the first Bruxa we meet in the Blood and Wine expansion for The Witcher 3, at Corvo Bianco, but we also see this a few more times, not only in the same expansion, but also in the books. For the other times in Blood and Wine, I believe a Bruxa can be stumbled across wearing a hood next to an abandoned cabin, and another can be fought during the Night of the Long Fangs. There is also of course Oriana, who is thought to be a Bruxa based on the A Night to Remember trailer, although there is a lot of confusion surrounding this character, as at one point she is implied to be a true higher vampire, similar to Regis and Detlef. I have made a full video about Oriana that I would recommend watching to understand this character in full, but for a brief conclusion, I believe that she is technically a Bruxa, but perhaps she is simply an old, powerful Bruxa, that has not only managed to master masking her appearance, but also managed to learn the common tongue. The Witcher 2 also reveals to us another of their abilities, which they appear to not possess in The Witcher 3, based on how effective Black Blood is, but in The Witcher 2 Bestiary, it is stated that Bruxa have masterful control of their blood circulation, and therefore poisons and oils are not as effective against them, as they can dispel their effects with ease. Also, The Witcher 2 states that less powerful Bruxa hunt in packs, but this appears to also not be the case in The Witcher 3. However, it might be the case we simply might not have encountered the less powerful Bruxa in the Blood and Wine expansion. The Witcher 2 Bruxa are also able to deprive their victims of sight, making fighting them like a deadly game of cat and mouse. To finish off today, I think it's interesting to note that Bruxa were actually supposed to be in the Witcher 3 base game, but they were ultimately removed later in development. However, they do still appear as a Gwent card in the final game. That's the end of today's lore video anyway, guys. I've had a fun time making this one. This information took a very long time to gather. I went through all the Witcher books, I went through loads and loads of different sources, and I think I've compiled every single thing we know about Bruxas, and I'm pretty sure I haven't missed anything. If you enjoyed today's video, I'd really appreciate you liking it, as these videos take me a long time to do, and liking it just lets me know you want more and you support this sort of content. Also, obviously, if this is the first video you're finding, I'd really appreciate you subscribing. That would be so awesome. And also be sure to follow me on Twitter, Twitch, Discord, Reddit, all that sort of stuff, and I just want to say thank you all so much for doing that. But anyway, guys, that's the end of today's video. As always, a big thank you to the Patreon pledges. You guys are honestly amazing, and thank you all so much, and I'll leave you all with their names. Have an awesome rest of the week, guys, and I hope you've all enjoyed today's video.
Wolves asleep in midst swaying in the breeze. But one soul lies anxious, wide awake, fearing all manner of ghouls, hags, and wraiths. For your dolly Polly sleep has flown, don't dare let her